You're listening to Fish Out of Water, the podcast where feeling out of place becomes the start of something new. Dive in with us. Let's explore stories, insights, and real conversations that help you swim forward with purpose. Well, we're back again. We are on the trajectory of survival when it comes to the podcast reality, quickly approaching episode 5, right on the way to episode 10, which if I understand correctly, I think it's episode 10 that by episode 10, most podcasts have either shut down or just stopped having their voice being heard.
That's not good.
No, it's not, because I think there are so many voices out there that are ready to be heard and even needed to be heard. And so my name is Bret Chapman, and I am, by the time you're hearing this podcast, I am officially a Masters of Ed graduate. And that is so exciting. It's been a long 20 months of my head buried in books and research, but I'm here now. And this is an exciting space.
Yeah, absolutely. Congrats to you. That's
Woo!
super exciting, having pursued my master's in the past as well. It's a big accomplishment and really is testimony to your steadfastness, your ability to stick with it, because it's not
Mhm.
always easy when you have assignments and they've got to be done, but life is still happening around you.
Yeah.
And you were just saying how, by the 10th podcast, most people have fallen off, and the it's a detriment in the sense that there's a lot of I'm just repeating what you said, that there are voices that we don't get a chance to hear,
Mhm.
that have something important to share with the rest of the world. And so today's podcast is actually about our voice, and we're calling it positioning your voice in a noisy world. And when Brett and I first met, I have to say it was very refreshing for me, because I have a tendency of being too direct for most people. But Brett always took what I had to say in stride and actually met me where I was at, um, challenged me in a lot of ways. But because I was able to be myself in his presence, um, his challenging of me was never a threat. And that was something that, when I said that it's refreshing, that was what was so refreshing to me. And the things that he would ask of me and get me to think about, and the things that he didn't even agree with me on. I don't know if we've ever had a fight, Brett. Like, we've disagreed for sure, but
Oh,
we've
for
never
sure.
had a full out argument. Um, I think because you really taught me so much about myself, and walking through, my core temperament and the way that I relate to others, um, not just, from me to them, but also from them to me. Um, and it's been this journey of just every time we talk about it, there's something new that comes up out of it. And so I thank you for that, first of all, because there's very few people I can say that about in my life. So you have that special place. There's a Brett shelf. Okay.
Well, I mean, I receive that space and really the honor of of ensuring that you're heard and that your presence isn't muted. I was having a conversation, a digital dialogue with somebody, and they were speaking to how their indigenous presence has been completely suffocated in the spaces that they've attempted to operate. And it broke my heart because it isn't about, even for me, indigenous or racial lines, or it is the human connectivity side, where in a completely separate conversation we were talking about the inability to collaborate. Everybody wants free, but no one wants to bring to the table. No one wants to actually engage in something, which is, I think, our focus is that unique and different with our cohorts and the coaching that we're looking to provide is we're not coming at at you in front of you to speak. We're coming alongside of you to say, have you seen this? Have you seen that? And how are you engaging with the space that is around you? That we're not here promising results, but we're here to be in the presence of the journey in the mud, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think to add to something that you just said, is that when you're collaborating, there's a two-way street. And when collaboration isn't happening, in addition to what you said, I find that the other common mistake that organizations or people make is that let's collaborate, but let's do it my way,
Mm,
right? And so it's now a collaboration of your perspective rather than a collaboration of perspectives, if you will. And it's something that we really want to blow the doors open on,
mhm,
right? And so when we talk about core temperaments, uh, actually, let's back up and let's do relational connections, right? So we have five relational connections, right?
mhm.
Let's just run through them and give folks a
Yeah.
picture of the relational connections, both giving and receiving,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So,
And and then to be fair, we have redeveloped some of these concepts to fit more of our glossary and perspective of how we're bringing it. This isn't
yes,
really new information out there.
right.
Gary Chapman's got some fantastic material in regards to love languages. Paul White's got some material out there where he partnered and they developed the appreciation languages for the business and the corporate context. And so I'm not really looking to reinvent the wheel, but we wanted to make sure that the language suited what we wanted people to grow in. And so, when we look at these relational connectivities, we wanted people to have a sense of what it meant to be empowered.
Hmm.
You are empowered and you are one who is empowering others. The idea of supportive action. There are people that want to move, go, and do, but they don't want to do it for themselves. They want to keep other people in mind. Their focus is on others. Then we have the meaningful tokens. And this is the idea of how we think about other human beings when they're not with us. And those tokens, those small
Gifts.
seemingly gifts,
Yeah.
but seemingly insignificant to anybody else looking in, that well, I won't tell that story. I think I've already told that once. But the idea of intentional presence,
Hmm.
the space in which we inhabit for others so that others can inhabit that space for us.
Hmm.
And then lastly, the grounded connection. How are we making physical contact with others? How are we encouraging and building a connection? But we're doing this through this, what we refer to as grounded connection, which is the physical contact, not only being in someone's space, but high five, fist bump, hugs, you know,
Slap on the
in
back.
yeah, all
Yeah.
sorts of different aspects. And each one of these requires a unique view of others, to be respectful. That we live in a culture and a society that has elevated selfish context. I bleed out a little bit here when I say there are genuine people out there who are love thieves. They will take to fill their own tank in any way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
And I think that that is where these types of connections become very dangerous and harmful for both parties involved.
Hmm.
And that the ability to see that and to recognize when that's happening so that lines are drawn, so boundaries can be established for healthy relational connections.
Hmm. Absolutely. And we'll come back to the relational connections that we were just talking about because I want to ask you something about it, but related to the next thing that we're going to talk about. So we'll put it on the shelf for a second. Um, when we talk about our core temperament, a few episodes ago, we briefly touched on it, but there's four temperaments, core
Hmm.
temperaments. When we talk about the core temperaments, we're really talking about how we lead in our life, not leader of other people, but how we show up in life,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So with those four, again, not something that we've completely developed ourselves. But Brett, can you share how we approach them?
Yeah. So when we're talking about these developmental approaches, we're looking at these from in the deepest context, these are psychological processes that are essentially what we refer to as autonomic, meaning that you are going to show up in your most available space in the most natural way. So each environment we have like a guarded perspective where I don't necessarily let my full version of me show up.
Hmm.
But then when we're in a space where we're comfortable and we're with people that we love or love us, then or appreciate us, we appreciate them, they we let that guard come down and then we show up. I love how you talked at the beginning about the space that I was able to hold with you, that you never felt less than the whole version of yourself.
Hmm.
And I think that this is what our goal is in teaching and developing. So the four styles fall into a reflective category, someone who is internalized, who is able to capture a lot of data or a lot of analytical content in a very quick way and then produce a path or a direction of movement. The second is someone who's showing up intentionally. This is usually an external expression of who we might be, and they are a lot of fun to be around. They've got a lot of high energy. They're very, very in the moment type people. And then we have the supportive.
Sorry, I have to put
Oh,
this in because it always made me laugh whenever you said it. That person that you just described is like your best friend in the moment,
oh,
but you might
yes.
not hear
Yep.
from them after they walk away.
Yep. Yep. Or if you're in a room like at a party and you watch this person and you like feel like you're the most important person in the room, and then they go and talk to the person beside you, and that person's all of a sudden the most important person in the room,
Hmm.
and you're like, "What? What am I? Like,
Yeah.
what just happened here?" And it's this, but it's the type of energy in
Hmm.
which they're and again, I loved how you delineated that it's not leadership, but it's how we're showing up.
Hmm.
And the phrase that came to mind is the path that we're developing, the
Yeah.
way that we're walking out who we are, whether it's relationally or autonomically. And so then the third one is supportive. And this person will come alongside, deep, deep relationship with you, and will have the ability to bring their skills and their experiences to support, to draw into. Um, Oddly enough, Lee, both you and I sit in that space of
Hmm.
supportive. And so when we defined and designed and have been developing all of what is kind of the empower you glossary and focus, this being in the mud with people was
Hmm.
something that is essential.
Yeah.
That that we're not in a hurry, we're not trying to rush anybody, we're not spitting out solutions.
Hmm.
We're just, okay, yeah, yeah, this is dirty. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
But we're also don't want to hurry you out of it because if you're learning something in the space. And so that's kind of where we come into. And then empowering, the idea of what does it mean to empower others to move?
Hmm.
Again, that sits for both of us really, really strongly
Hmm.
in that I don't want someone to stay in the mud for as long as any longer than they need to be.
Hmm.
Um, and my learning over this last number of years to listen more, to be in that supportive environment,
Hmm.
so that the pathway or the movement or the motion is being developed by the one who will have to do it without me.
Yeah.
That I think that these are the dynamics
Hmm.
when we
Absolutely.
look at how are we building ourselves, how are we cultivating community, and then in those two elements, how are we mastering the collaborative experience.
Right. So this brings me back to the question I wanted to ask. Um, is that how does this pairing of the relational connections and the leader, we'll call them leadership styles for the sake of or the core temperaments even, how does the pairing matter for you or for me or for anybody or even in like a group context? What what are we talking about at that stage?
When we speak into the relational connectivity components, these five kind of unspoken autonomic languages that are just pouring out of who we are and how receiving that from others. This navigates who the types of people that we are drawn towards. So I'm a supportive action type of person. And so then I want to surround myself with people who are supportive action.
Hmm.
Or or in the pairing context, I'm a supportive action encouraging words. And so even if you may not be a supportive action person, but you're an encouraging words, I'm bringing my action into your life
Hmm.
because it's your encouraging words that essentially put fuel in my tank
Hmm.
for me to be the healthiest version of myself.
Hmm.
And that is the purpose of appreciation, it's the purpose of love, it's the purpose of the relational portion of how we connect is having fuel to operate in uncomfortable circumstances.
Hmm. It's I was just thinking about a work relationship that I had a number of years ago. And my style, if you will, is that I'm supportive, but my need for affection and my way of giving affection in terms of like my top spot is you know, intentional presence. I'm here. I want to talk to you. I want to hear what you have to say. Then I want to share what I think based on what you have to say. So like that conversation, that meaningful time, let's sit with a cup of coffee and do it, right? And the other person I worked with was very empowering. So you know, they was like get stuff done. They would celebrate when things get done, but their relational was, how do I say, I don't think they knew what their relation language was, truthfully, because when I sat there and, you know, tried to tick some stuff off my hands, and I'm like, they didn't receive it this way. They didn't receive it this way. So I don't know that they really had a very healthy way of relating. And so, um, coming now from, you know, talking about the pairing style, what are some of the dangers that we deal with when you're not self-aware? So I'm thinking about this other person of like, what were they missing in their life, missing out on in their life because they didn't even realize how they were giving or showing receiving um any sort of relational affirmation.
Ooh, that's a loaded one, right?
It
I
is a
think
loaded one. It's a big one. We might have to do a whole segment on it, but I think it's important because, you know, we're talking about the good things when you know yourself and so on, but what's the dangers, what the potholes that we run into when we're not self-aware about these things?
Mhm. So I think that one aspect is remembering that we as humans, in any sense of community or culture, we are driven by two core essentials, two foundations that drive every part of our behavior. We are looking for safety and we are looking for security. From the time we are born till the time that we are no longer breathing, these are the driving forces of who we are. And so I think that when we are not aware and we are operating in an autonomic system, there is the fight, flight, or freeze component. And these begin to rule all of our decision making behaviors.
Hmm.
And if we're in fight mode, then we're leaning in and pushing and arguing and trying to take. We're becoming that love thief. We're taking what we need because our fuel tank is empty, because we've drawn down to the fumes, we have nothing left. No one understands me, so I'm just going to have to go get what I can get. when we look at this at the relational side, this isolation kind of rots away at us. And when then that emptiness or that siloing or isolation begins to impact our leadership style, we become very disconnected to what others are bringing. And now we're losing sight of collaboration. We're only leading through what I see. And I'm not letting any other views come in. Everyone else can't see it. I'm the right one all the time. And I mean, I've been there. Oh my goodness. And not it's not a collaborative experience and it's not healthy. And even though I have the knowledge that I have today that I didn't have then, I hurt a lot of
Hmm.
people because I
Hmm.
forced things.
Hmm. Well, when you're living in this place of fight or flight, it's um, a place of survival rather than a place of safety and security. And when it's about survival, it doesn't matter about anything else around. It's about you keeping on, keeping on. And in there lies the danger of stepping on people, pushing them out of the way, um, making them not feel heard, and you insisting that you're not being heard. But when, it's funny, something happens when you aren't listening to others, you oftentimes don't feel heard yourself. I don't
Mm-hmm.
that's just an observation. That's nothing that I've read about. But I find that people who are poor listeners oftentimes are poor listeners of their own voice as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in this episode, as we're talking about having a voice in this noisy world, a voice that has something to say and is worth being heard in this noisy world, is that I think when it comes down to it, it's really important that people um, come to this place of self-awareness, because in that place of self-awareness, I mean, I think of anybody that I look up to, regardless of their personality, core temperament, relational style, anything. There are people who, if you ask them questions about themselves, they will tell you, I don't know this, I don't know this, I don't know this. I do know this, and I'm still learning about this. But there's a level of introspection that is continually going on. And I just want to hear more of what they have to say, because have they are in this space of being very observant. And because of it, their voice to me is like magnified, if you will, in
Mm-hmm.
my life when I'm taking what I'm hearing from them and applying it to my life. So, how do I say this? So we have this place of limitations, because we can't
Mm-hmm.
be everybody. We can't be someone to everybody, if you will. Not everybody's gonna like us. What are the guideposts, or the obstacles, whatever side you want to come from it, that we need to keep in mind, to maintain like a healthy mental space, especially when we're collaborating with others.
Mm-hmm. So one of the worst questions we can have in regards to a dialogue in any setting where we're project managing and such, in my opinion, we caveat that so we don't get in trouble, is the strength and weaknesses conversation. And I think that one of the things I've learned most recently since doing my master's degree is that weaknesses tend to move people to focus on them and want to fix them, where the language that I chose was strengths and limitations, where my limitations became an opportunity for invitation. It was as I began to better know myself and accept what I can do really, really well, and know the things that I don't do well, I could invite others in to do the things that I don't do. To pull back the curtain on some of the things that I've been working on the last several years, is I work in gaming and video games and esports, competitive. And I love what I do. And there's a phrase in gaming and esports referred to as working the meta, M-A-T-E. And meta stands,
I
M-E-T-A.
was gonna say,
Wow.
well,
Me and my dyslexia just came through on the call. Um, and meta stands for most effective tactic available. Now, this has become a standard portion of conversation in video games based on the agents or avatars that we are participating with and their unique abilities and skills. So they put more power in the digital expression of who we are versus in the human perspective of who we are. And I flip that around. And so the goal is to to bring this back to our strengths and our limitations. The most effective tactic that we can use is the one that we are the strongest at. That and when you and I are in a room together trying to solve a problem, the most effective tactic is your strength and my strength operating in strength. And if there's something that we can't do, then we need to find the person that covers that.
hmm
It's not about, okay, well, these are the areas that we have to work on. We have to get better. Excuse me, we have to get better at that. And I'm like, I don't want to get better at that. The amount of awesomeness, and I'm being selfish in that phrase, the amount of awesomeness that I am in my strength, I do not want to unlearn that to focus on something I'm never going to be good at. I'm never ever going to get to that aqueous. Never going to be good. So I want to find somebody that changes the environment to then find the space where there are no limitations.
Right. So then you're talking about chemistry,
Yes, yes,
which we will leave to another episode
yes, yes, we
because
will.
that gets starts to get really interesting here. So, today, just to wrap up, one thing that I want to say, because we haven't really talked about Empower You today. Empower You, is really about helping people to position themselves as an individual, but also to learn how to collaborate, um, in different types of scenarios in a healthy manner with others, whether they are healthy or not. Brett mentioned being able to set up boundaries when they're needed. But when they're not needed, we also need to be able to recognize that the environment is safe for us so we can be authentically ourselves. And so, um, I'm looking forward to the next episode. I'm going to leave that as a surprise as to what we're going to talk about. But I just want to thank you all for joining us today on Fish Out of Water, and uh, wish you guys an awesome day, because every day is not awesome, but I hope that today is one for you. And if it's not, it's okay, because it's an opportunity to grow. Sometimes when things are hard, those are those are times when you look at the opportunity to grow and to be able to see beyond the circumstance. And so with that, we'll sign off today.